Alan Crosby, Barbara DeMint, Sebastian Fetzelak. I won't get that right most of the evening, but I'm going to try. I have a master's in engineering, not in English, and it's going to show itself here momentarily. Mr. John Higgin, Mr. Chris Melton, Mr. Jeff Miller, Mr. Cress Query, Ms. Dimple Shaw, and Mr. John Urban. So we're going to have it in the same format. They're going to have an opportunity to respond to questions I present to them. They'll have 90 seconds, and we're just going to go straight down. So our first question, Mrs. Burke. What steps should Matthews take to becoming a more bicycle and pedestrian-friendly town?
Well, as Larry Whitley said previously, I do think that in our future planning for new roads, we do need to make sure that every single one includes sidewalks and bike lanes. I also think that we need to extend the plans for the Greenway. Right now, the future Greenway plans do go across Trade Street and back behind some of the neighborhoods that border 51, but I think we can do better than that. I think we can make it go further so that we have access from all neighborhoods in Matthews to get to those greenways. And also I think we need to have an education plan starting in our schools. When I was in school, we had bike safety education. We learned how to bike and walk properly. I see a lot of people out now not obeying the rules of the road. So I think as part of driver education or as part of early childhood education, kids should learn how to properly bike and walk on the streets so that they're not taking risks. And that's how I think that we can make it a better, more bike-friendly town.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Crosby, your question. Describe what the Matthews Parks and Recreation and Cultural Resource Department should look like 4 years from now.
To be honest, I think they're doing a very good job currently. There's not much I would change personally. I think as far as parks and recs, we have some of the best parks in Mecklenburg County, in my opinion. Squirrel Lake Park is second to none, and the Greenway can definitely show that as well. It's cultural. On the cultural side of it, I would preferably like to see a little more history. I think history is incredibly important to our society. We are the sum of our history, if that makes sense. One of the things that I really enjoyed seeing in Matthews is the train depot. I think we can expand upon stuff like that, allow our children to kind of see where we came from, and with that knowledge, create a better future.
Okay, thank you. Just a minute. Barbara, your question is, describe how you would incorporate citizen feedback into your decisions.
If elected as commissioner, it's my main role to listen to you, to respond to you, and to take all of your thoughts and concerns and ideas into consideration. That will be weighed and considered against all of the things that our ordinances, the laws, the things that we can do. But absolutely, that's the #1 role, is listening and responding and being an advocate for the 30,000 plus people of Matthews.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Fetchula. Your question is, what is your vision for downtown Matthews regarding business and housing?
Thank you for that question. So certainly I think a lot of folks that move into Matthews have a vision overall. It's not just my vision, and it is, do you want to preserve the historical downtown? Do you want to have greater accessibility to the historical downtown? A lot of folks tell me the reason why I live here, I want to take my family, I want to walk down to the businesses, I want to see the history that's here, and I think that's part of what our culture is here in Matthews. And so moving on in the next couple of years, I do want to make sure that we're strengthening the access, whether it's with better road accessibility and both recycling and walking, making sure that we're not having the same traffic problems that we are having today, and just continuing to focus and creating a vision for town when it comes to marketing it, bringing in more tourism and focusing that we are a historic town. We can boost our commerce in our downtown that way and continue to have more of a community that's involved with our town and the businesses and the historical sites here. I think we should be focusing on that history, preserving it, and the businesses that are there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Higdon, your question is, what is the most critical thing Matthews leaders can do to ensure an efficient and effective road network?
Wow, that's a huge question. I think we're doing a pretty good job in that respect now. We have to remain engaged with North Carolina DOT, as Mr. Bailey said. A lot of our roads here are state-owned, and I've spoke several times to the chief engineer in this area for NCDOT, and he has assured me that he really doesn't want to build a road that the community doesn't want. And so I think it's essential that we remain engaged. And sometimes I think we have to take the bull by the horns. For instance, when Trade Street wasn't going to be widened for years and years and years, the town found a way to make that happen. So traffic is a continual problem. We have to continue to work with NCDOT and continue to have developments that have smart roadways and connectivity with greenways as well. And that's about all I'm going to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Melton, your question. How should the town address overcrowding of area schools?
I love this one. The town needs to continue to put pressure on CMS. The town needs to continue to put pressure on the North Carolina Department of Education, and then most importantly, our legislators. The Town Board of Commissioners, along with the mayor and the folks involved with the town, they are our children's largest advocate and loudest advocate. I think the overcrowding needs to be addressed not only through school bonds that may be or may not be approved this year. I think we need planning. And I think a good example of planning and being a loud voice is, you remember a couple of years ago when Butler High School had a lot of trailers out in the back, and we were completely at our max capacity for Butler High School. But Matthews, the citizens, the town board, the mayor, everybody was loud enough and the biggest voice for those children to get them a brick and mortar school. So to summarize, I would say advocacy, planning, and voices in Raleigh and trying to tell them we are Matthews and we will not stick to the mediocrity and overcrowding.
Thank you, sir. We might need to turn one of those mics off. Okay, Mr. Miller, you have a mic that's good there? Check it out.
1, 2, test, yes.
Okay, thank you. Your question, Mr. Miller, what should town leaders do to address traffic congestion within Matthews?
Good question. It's been a hot topic for the 10 years I've been commissioner, and came up the first time ever. We consistently work on connectivity roads. For example, in 2007, we punched Charles Street through. It used to dead end at the Renfro property. We got an easement from Frank Renfro, and we connected Charles Street. It used to dead end somewhere near the Help Center. Now it goes and connects to Lois. That was one such project. Recently, we just put a traffic light over at Northeast Parkway and Sam Newell. That helps. The roundabout, well, we're all still working on the roundabout, most of us, but it's helped the backup of traffic at Idlewild and 51. We've built the Charles Buckley Way in between Charles and John Street. So there's an intersection of Charles and Charles Buckley now, in reference to kings and queens. We widened South Trade Street. That was a very, very controversial widening, and it cost the money. It was a state road, but it was a town problem. And so we widened that, and soon the culvert is going to be widened, and referencing the
10
connectivity of
seconds.
bicycles. The greenway will go under Trade Street, come up to Mara, connect to Fullwood to 51, and the greenway and the bikeable community is going to be expanded dramatically. Those are some of the projects we've worked on recently. One other would be
Thank you.
widening 51 over by Phillips.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Query. Trying to mix this up here. So this is a repeat question from the mayoral, but I'll see how you address it. The town is currently evaluating a rezoning project that would replace a trailer park with upscale apartments. How can town leaders ensure Matthews is free from the effects of gentrification?
That's been on the books for a while now, and at this point in time, the developer has agreed to pay for them moving the trailers, and I think that was a good thing. It kind of gets them in a bad spot though, because if the town doesn't rezone that for apartments now, those folks won't get the extra money they needed to go move their trailers. And if we do zone it, then they're going to move them, and we're not sure about the apartments that's going to be built in there. In my opinion, those apartments are not the upscale apartments that Matthews likes, but that it may be a portion of them could be downsized somewhat so our employees could afford.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Shaw, your question is, how can Matthews retain its small-town charm in light of a fast-growing population?
No, good question. A lot of people want to move to Matthews. It's such a great town to live in, right? And that's great. I encourage people to move here because I love living here. However, we love the small town feel, and that's why people move here. We want to keep that small town feel. So I feel it's because of the community that we have this small town feel. As long as we keep the sense of community and make sure that nothing damages the sense of community that we have in the historic downtown area, but also all of Matthews. I feel like all of Matthews is connected, and we all live here for a reason. So making sure that all of our decisions are decisions that maintain that small town character and charm of Matthews, and try to limit how much development does happen here, how many big box stores come into our historic area, because we want to keep it walkable and safe for all the citizens here, and keep the character the way we like it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Urban, your question, it's a repeat question. What is the most critical thing Matthews leaders can do to ensure an efficient and effective road network?
It's a very complex issue. And for anybody to come out of the box and say more roads or anything of that nature, that's not an answer. It's going to be a variety of options that are going to achieve that. And the options are, we already talked about it, pedestrian connectivity, neighborhood connectivity, bikeways, the extension of the greenways. Our greenways will eventually